I'm Garrett Scahill, coming to you here from Castlerea on the Suck Valley Way, and just want to let you know in 2023 we've some exciting things happening on the Suck River in Roscommon. The kayaking club is growing in membership. We're hoping to get a lot more people trained up in the early new year and then get a few more members. So anyone watching tonight, get in touch with the Ballintubber and District Kayaking Club to take advantage of the wonderful river we have on our doorstep here. As well as that, the Sucks Valley Way Development Cooperative are hoping to launch in Q1 our feasibility study on a blue way for the Suck Valley Way. So that's hopefully going to take advantage of the money and the future funding that Fáilte Ireland are planning for the Midlands. The fact that we'll have a feasibility study, the fact that we have a kayaking club in the area, the fact that we have an international trail utilising the Suck Valley Way in the Beara Breffni Way. We've got it all here in Roscommon and we're very excited about 2023.
There was a man called Johnny Brown who lived alone outside the town. Paddy's rough and tumble down by the wild and rugged mountain. He had a dog and he named him Jack, and he had some chickens out the back. He played it tune and he played it fast, and he played Sally Gardens. Travel far from miles around, his squeeze box sang in every town. Penny or a shilling or a half a crown, and he helped of all the neighbours. He paid for the lords and the ladies all at wakes and weddings big and small. Played at the dance in the village hall, and he played Sally Gardens. They soon captured Johnny Brown. His world of travels tumbled down. His cottage rough and tumbled down by the wild and rugged mountains. The tomb in the graveyard near the town says, "Here lays poor old Johnny Brown. His music lies in silence now," and he played Sally Gardens. Johnny Brown, he lived alone outside the town. Paddy's rough and tumble down by the wild and rugged mountain. He had a dog and he named him Jack, and he had some chickens out the back. He nailed a tune and he played it fast. They called the Sally Gardens.
Okay, so we're here in Glenskin. We're immensely proud of the history that belongs in this area, particularly the O'Sullivan Bear. And coming up to Christmas, I immediately think of O'Sullivan Bear gathering his people down in West Cork, gathering 1,000 people and starting to make their way towards Leitrim. And on their way, they passed through Glenskere. And as we go forward, we see greater developments of the Beara Breffni walkway, which we hope will bring lots of people passing by here, looking at our castle, looking at Balnakill Abbey and the other rich heritage sites that we have. And also this ties in nicely with the Suck Valley Way, which all indeed began with the history of O'Sullivan Bear and his people passing through Glensk as well. That's going back to, they started out from Glengariff on New Year's Eve 1602 and made their way to Leitrim. And when they arrived there, of the 1,000 people who started, there only 35 people arrived in Leitrim village, and one of them was a woman, a definite survivor. But many of those people also fell along the way, and some of them remained on here. Some of their descendants are still here in Glens today, and we're very proud of that connection, and all to do with O'Sullivan Bear.
Welcome to the facility here at Glens GAA Club, and an ironic and iconic week to be visiting us here. St. Stephen's Day we open our new facilities, or our extended facility shall I say, of the walk around, and there's an area down here that we've picked up early for limbering up and doing stretching and everything. So I'm deputising for Tommy Kinney. My name is Tom Cunningham. Tommy Kinney is chairman of the club, but he's unavailable today, and I have to compliment him and his fellow officers in the club, Damien in particular and Eamon, for the brilliant job they're doing. They have put a power of work into this, and of course they're relying on sponsorship. The lottery and the national lotto of course has helped us as well, so well done to the work there. The brief history of the club: we were amalgamated with Craig's. The parochial church that covers Craig's Glensk is in Kilbegnet, and it's in County Roscommon. So in the early days we would have played our football in the Roscommon county, and then in the late 70s we made a move to join here to Galway, because every blade of grass in the parish of Glensk here is in County Galway. And in 1980 we joined the Galway football setup. Small club, like most rural clubs, we're stuck for numbers. Underage we have amalgamated with Glenamaddy in Williamstown and called Northern Gales, and going well, quite a good bit of success in recent years. Luckily enough, at adult level, we still can field a team, and we fielded 2 teams 2 years ago, so numbers are quite good. And fair play, our ladies, they're independent. We have a Glens ladies football team. It's a lot of work, and you're relying on some of the older lads to keep playing and the older girls to keep playing. But in tying with everything else in the parish here, there's a great community spirit, and everyone puts their shoulders at the wheel. Fundraising and numbers, I suppose, are the big things on the agenda. The facilities here, it was known as the Monks Field. The Franciscan order, who were based in Kilkerran, had all this land that you kind of see probably on screen now, but Angelina will pick it up. The monks farmed this land going back, maybe well over 100 years ago, but they always allowed this area here for the local teams to play football. The history of the club, it would have been dipped from the 1920s, and it was fairly strong in the 50s, but has really come strong the last 40, 50 years again. So we're proud of our club here. It's a struggle, of course, as I've said earlier, with numbers, but the great lads there at the helm at the moment, and hopefully they'll keep the show on the road, as to say, and this is going to be a huge advantage to the parish.
This time we're going to do a little song, one you know very well, one written by the great John Duggan himself and recorded by Brendan Shine. It's very appropriate to what we're doing here today and County Roscommon. A little song, one called The Rose Castlery.
Oh, the lambs are playing in the field and the tulips are in flower. When I left the home that I loved so well, I never forget the hour. Before me was the Atlantic wave to a home in Tennessee, and I left behind me the girl I loved, the Rose of Castlereagh. She may not have been a beauty queen, she might never be a rose, but to me she is the fairest flower that in the garden grows. Although I am in the Mary Cape, across the Atlantic Sea, sure I'll always love my Roscommon girl, the Rose of Castlereagh. Well, it's many's the night that I lie in bed, my thoughts do fondly go to the lovely days that I walked my love on the road of Bynagh Crow. Her smiling face, her shining hair was a joy for all to see. 'Twas a cruel day that I went away from you and Castlereagh. She may not have been a beauty queen, she might never be a rose, but to me she is the fairest flower that in the garden grows. Although I am in America, across the Atlantic Sea, sure I'll always love my Roscommon girl, the Rose of Castlereagh. I open up the Roscommon Herald I just received today to read about my native town, a friend so far away. But the tears began to blind me as I glanced across page 3 at a picture on her wedding day of the Rose of Castlereagh. Farewell to you, Roscommon, from Clonfad to the Shannon shore. Farewell to Boyle and Fringe Park, I'll never see you more. But the cotton fields near Memphis must remain a home for me, and I'll always love my Roscommon girl, the Rose of Castlereagh. She may not have been a beauty queen, she might never be a rose, but to me she is the fairest flower that in the garden grows. Although I am in America, across the Atlantic Sea, sure I'll always love my Roscommon girl, the Rose of Castlereagh. Sure I'll always love my Roscommon girl, the Rose of Castlereagh.
I'm very happy to be here in Castlereagh at the northern end of the Suck Valley Way. My job here today is to give a little bit of history of Sir William Wilde, one of the famous sons of Castlereagh, who was father of the even more famous Oscar Wilde. William was remarkable in many ways, and less so in some ways, and I'll tell you about all of that over the next few moments. The Wilde family originated in Durham in the northeast of England, where William's grandfather, Ralph Wilde, was born. Ralph came to Castlereagh in the mid-1700s to be the land agent for the Sanfords, who were the owners of the area here, having got the confiscated O'Connor estates in the mid-1600s. Thomas Wilde was born here Thomas Wilde was a doctor in this town for a quarter of a century up until his death in 1838. His son William, who went on to be the father of Oscar Wilde, was born in 1815. He was educated at the Bishop Hudson School in Elphin and the Royal School in Banagher, County Offaly. He studied medicine in Dublin, London, Berlin and Vienna. He specialised in ophthalmic surgery and built up a large practice as an eye and ear specialist. He is reputed to have revolutionised the treatment of middle ear infections. He founded St Mark's Ophthalmic Hospital in Dublin, and that hospital later merged into the present-day Eye and Ear Hospital in Adelaide Road. William had many interests which propelled him to prominence as an author, archaeologist, and statistician, to name but a few. As an assistant commissioner for the 1841 and 1851 census, he carried out detailed research on the history of disease in Ireland, and for that he was honoured with a knighthood in 1864. He published several books on topics which included his European travels, on rural Irish life, and a 3-volume catalogue on the contents of the Royal Irish Academy. One of these books, Irish Popular Superstitions, has a chapter entitled The Fisherman of the Suck, which tells the story of the Walsh family who lived, quote, on the banks of the Suck between Ballymoe and Castlecoot. The relationship which the Walshes was formed during fishing trips with his father, and from this sprang William's love of folklore and superstitions. The father of this family, Paddy Walsh, as William described it, plied his skillful angling between spring and summer, and in winter he shot quantities of duck, teal and widgeon. William described Paddy's house as follows. The mansion being placed on the side of a hill required but 3 walls, the back being dug out of the bank. The remaining walls were formed of tempered yellow clay, generally called daub, mixed with chopped straw. Inside the cabin and to the right of the door was the domicile of the pig, and above it the roost and a couple of odd-looking bags with apertures in the sides for the hens to lay in." Unquote. Paddy had a son named Michael who was shot dead in 1823 when he reluctantly took part in a ribbon man attack on the police who had holed up in the ruins of Ballintubber Castle. To make an example of him, Michael's body was hung on a gibbet in the front of Roscommon Jail for a day and a half. The following day, the body was placed in a sitting position in a cart and paraded through Roscommon, Strokestown and here in Castlerea. William Wilde called it a frightful spectacle, horrifying and demoralising. For the times that he lived in, William's personal life was as colourful as that of his son Oscar's afterwards. William was the father of a son and 2 daughters by 2 mothers before his marriage. The children were reared by William's brother, the Reverend Ralph Wilde in Monaghan. The boy, Henry Wilson, was passed off as William's nephew. William paid for his medical education and he worked alongside his father at St. Mark's Hospital afterwards. He died of pneumonia in 1877, a year after his father. The daughters, Emily and Mary Wilde, were at a Halloween party in Drumaconnor House in Monaghan in 1871 when Mary's crimpeline dress caught fire when it brushed against a candle as she was dancing. Emily went to her assistance, but her dress also caught fire. They were severely burned and died soon afterwards. William saw to it that the colourful incident was hushed up. The only notice of their deaths appeared in a local paper and referred to them as Wiley, not Wild. William married Jane Elgie in 1851. She wrote nationalistic poetry and prose under the pen name Speranza. They had 3 children, Isola Francesca, who died in childhood at age 9, and 2 sons, William and Oscar. Sir William's infidelities caught up with him in 1864, a few months after his knighthood, when his discarded mistress, Mary Travers, began a campaign to discredit him, which prompted Speranza to send an angry letter to Mary's father. Mary responded by suing Speranza for libel, which led to a week-long celebrity trial with extensive and titillating coverage in the newspapers. The central accusation was that William had raped Mary while she was under the influence of chloroform. William declined to testify, but Speranza gave a staunch defence of her husband. Mary Travers won the libel case, but the jury awarded her damages of only 1 farthing. From then on, William spent less time in Dublin and retreated to his holiday home in Moytura, County Mayo. He died of bronchitis in April 1876 at 1 Merrion Square, Dublin, where a plaque records his achievements. His death certificate was signed by H. Wilson, his natural but not recognised son. He was buried in Mount Jerome Cemetery.
Yeah, well, we're here in the shop here in Glens that has, I suppose, been serving the community here for a good few generations. And back in your grandfather's time, we started off here, Cathal. But here today we have the new man on the block. Cathal is home from Australia. So what does it feel like to be home again in Glens and behind the counter?
Like I never left. It's nice to be back there. Seeing all the people from around the place again, of course, and being able to help out as best we can. Keep the show rolling, as they say.
And looking around, we have a great supply of stuff. You can supply anything from a needle to an anchor.
There's not much we don't have. As the old says, if we don't have it, you don't need it.
Very good.
So, yeah, that is that's the motto we're running on here at the minute. We have everything from farm supplies to loaf of bread to a bit of flour or veg or whatever you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the farm supplies is a fairly new addition to the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, about 9 or 10 years ago we started dealing in the farm supplies. And it's been going well. All the local farmers, I'm sure, are delighted that they don't have to start to travel for their stuff, and gives us an extra something else to sell as well along the way. And
Right, and for anyone that's walking or cycling or whatever along the Suck Valley Way, we can supply them with anything they need.
We have a stamp here. That is Suck Valley Way. We've people from all over the world come in asking to get their notebook stamped with their Suck Valley Way to say that they've been on it. They're coming from all walks of life.
So that proves that they've been here and
Been
they've
here
done
and
that.
they've done that, yeah.
Right.
Won't be returning anything though.
And we hope as time goes on that, you know, the whole Suck Valley Way and the Beara Breffni walk will develop further and have more and more people coming along. And of course it must be a big change from Australia to be back here again in Scahill.
Yeah. A welcome change, Martin. A welcome change. I was always one for the country life more so than the big city of Sydney, though, to be fair. But yeah, family now and settled and all that, so it's brilliant to be able to bring everybody back to home.
So it's great to see a new young family back in the community, because that's what the community is all about. Every extra family makes a big difference, and to everything that's happening around, and indeed for the local school, everything depends on every new family coming into the area.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, keeping this business going, keeping the shop going.
Yeah.
It's great to see a bit of new blood coming up as well.
I wouldn't say new blood now. I wouldn't say new blood, but I know it's good to be able to keep the show moving. Like Dad, he's been busy for the last while, I suppose, with 2 women trying to keep this place going. It's not an easy feat. Keep going day in, day out. It's long days, so no, I'm happy to be here to help along the way.
That's great, and of course Jan has been serving the community for many years and has done a wonderful job. Along with Claire and
Eileen.
And Eileen keeping the show going as well, and everybody helping out.
Well, hello, my name is Tom Dowd. I'm one of the Dowd family. We opened up the Glencastle Lounge, or the pub here, and it's just 50 years ago this year since we opened it up. There has been a lot of changes in them 50 years. When we opened up first the pub, the price of the pint was only 16 pence, and the half one was 18 pence. And the 300 gallons of diesel was £16. I always think of them 3 prices, they always stick in my mind. There's been a lot of changes since that, and ups and downs. We had some great years, but we can be awful thankful to the local community and the surrounding areas as well for all the support and everything we got down through the years. And as for the Suck Valley Way, it's another new, would you call it an enticement or a help to the small areas like Glenskier with the shop and the pub and everything that comes through, or any bit of extra, would you call it support or whatever, like it's an addition, like, and it's great to meet people too, fishermen coming and the different ones going through the walk, like everyone has a different tale and a different story, and it's great to meet all different people, and long may it continue, and I wish them all the best luck and everything else.
My name is Tom McTague. I'm involved with the Ballymoe Development Group in assessing water quality for the area around Ballymoe. We have 2 main rivers located in Ballymoe, the Suck passing through the town, and the Islands River behind me, both of which are high quality status objective rivers. The Islands River is referred to as a Blue Dot River and is achieving good quality status at the moment through a lot of sampling both by LawPro and the EPA, and we hope to achieve full status in the next couple of years. My involvement is also with LawPro, where we seek funding to improve water quality, habitat restoration and flora and fauna development along the rivers. We currently have a project, an ongoing project with the Ballymoe development for water harvesting. We've put in a water harvesting system to mitigate stormwater going into the Islands River and mitigate flood damage in any way possible. We are also providing signage, a number of signs around the village, promoting biodiversity and promoting habitat restoration. We have developed a biodiversity garden along the main road and planted it with wildflower and have a no-mow policy in place with it. We are also looking at the surveying of the Islands River and carrying out some bank revetment restoration using willow sapling in the future. Our ultimate aim is to restore high quality status to the waters around Ballymoe. There are a number of pressures that are involved, mainly drainage, wastewater, agriculture, forestry, which will be all part of the pressures around water quality. So we're hoping to keep the momentum going and improve the quality of the water, because it is an asset. It's the basis for providing ecological services for the area, either rural tourism, fishing, walkways, health and well-being amenities. All of that comes into it. As well, it's a source of potable water for drinking and for agriculture. And we hope to maintain the momentum with the support of LawPro and Galway Rural Development, which are heavily involved and have provided some training to us and on action planning around water biodiversity.
I'm Chris Dickeniff. I'm a retired community archaeologist with Galway County Council. I'm actually standing here at the old 17th century bridge. What survives here behind me of the 17th century bridge here at Castlecoot, just immediately beside Castlecoot House itself. And within the grounds here we see the remains of the 17th century castle that was built here by the Coots back in the 17th century. Castlecoot House is a very important 18th century house with earlier elements within the fabric of the building. It's now the annual festival, the Percy French Festival. So from a cultural perspective, the house is alive, if you like, and thriving. Something similar to what it would have been in its heyday during the 18th and 19th century. And of course, we're right here beside the River Suck itself. And the Suck really is the central theme of what we're looking at here. I suppose when we examine the Suck, what we find are various little villages and houses, a lot of abandoned landed estate houses running along this river. The river itself stretches for about 80 kilometres and it rises in County Mayo near Ballyhaunis in a place called Bunsuckeen. I suppose the starting point of the Suck itself, a little lake between two iskers in County Mayo. And it runs on then in a sort of a meandering pattern between Galway and Roscommon until it reaches the River Shannon, just below the village of Shannonbridge in County Offaly. If we look at the various towns and villages that you find along the Suck, one of the things that you will actually see immediately is the use that was made of the river itself. Well, first of all, it was bridged. We had to cross it, so a lot of the settlements are at fording points, but the river has been bridged, so we have some very fine bridges dating back to the 18th and early 19th century. We also have quite a number of mills, a lot of them I suppose disused today, but they're still very important pieces of industrial heritage, and they're all part of the significance of what this river is about. And I suppose the other thing that we should look at when we're looking at the River Suck is how it reacted with the hinterland. The Suck is one of those rivers. It's a slow slowish river, maybe not quite as slow as the River Shannon itself, but it's a slow river, and it tends to swell in wintertime and flood. So what we have on either side then in places are the callows and the floodplains to go with the River Suck. There are also some very important historical sites along the Suck itself. For example, not too far from here we have the very important Castle Strange stone, that Iron Age, that Latin stone, that stone with that wonderful sinuous decoration that you get from the Celtic period. And that's a very, very important element going right back to the Iron Age here in this corner of County Roscommon. Also, we find that there was one of the earlier tawns took place not too far from here, a tawn bow, not too dissimilar to the tawn bow Coolina, that actually crossed the river here in Ballymoe, making his way to Mayo. The cattle were raided, brought from Roscommon, brought as far as Mayo, and that's known as the Mayo tawn. So some of these things are part, if you like, of the backstory of what's taken place here in this locality. And of course, then the other thing that we get are the various religious sites that we say we're only a stone's throw here from Furety. And Furety was one of those important early Christian sites. We don't know a lot about it. It hasn't been excavated as such in modern times, but what we do know is there are two early Christian cross slabs attached to a wall there that go right back to the 8th or 9th century. So we can see that the place was significant, a very important place in this time. And I suppose just going back again to the importance of the crossings and that, some of these places retain the elements, the element of it. Atleague, for example. Atleague was a very important crossing point, as was Ballinasloe, almost at the bottom of the River Suck. Ballinasloe is quite close to where the Suck reaches the Shannon, but that goes right back. There was a bridge built there in the 12th century by Turlough O'Connor, the King of Connacht. So you can see that there was a lot of different things happening here, going right back into the medieval period and actually going right back into prehistory, into the Iron Age and that. And of course, we're not far from Rathcroghan, the royal centre of Connacht. So you can see that the place would have been very, very busy and would have been an important centre. And you can see that the Suck itself would have been an important element of that. The other aspect of the Suck is its importance as a habitat and a place where sports and that we say sports fishing and different things, canoeing and other elements like that can be undertaken. The Suck actually borders my own parish at home where I come from. So in many ways I'm influenced by the Suck itself. We'll say the floodplains of Clonfert or the callows of Clonfert would have been flooded by both the Shannon and the River Suck in the past. And the very last house, believe it or not, on the River Suck is Coughlan's, just where the River Suck joins the River Shannon. Coughlan's of Clonfert. It's number 1 in the townland of Clonfert Butson if you look at Griffith's valuation and look at the later census. But it's the very last house as we travel down the River Suck, all the way from, I suppose, its source in near Ballyhonus. So I think that's an interesting thing as well. A number of years ago, there were excavations, underwater excavations undertaken at Corrine Ford and some of the other fords to actually make the Suck itself navigable for boats up as far as Ballinasloe. And some of the materials that they recovered there was quite interesting. There was some Viking age stuff recovered from there. There was quite a bit of stuff of the Battle of Aughrim period, if you like, the 1690s, when both, I suppose, the Williamites and the Jacobites would have been crossing the river there in Corrine. So these places, I suppose, give up a lot of their secrets at that stage. And I suppose we do need to understand the significance of the place. One of the things that does need to occur as far as the Suck is concerned is we do need to undertake a proper study. We do need to look at it in an in-depth fashion to fully understand what it is, both from a natural heritage perspective and from a built heritage and, I suppose, archaeological perspective. There's a lot more information that we can glean from this. If we look at some of the cartography, such as the bog maps associated with the River Suck, we can actually see a confluence of streams and rivers that feed into the Suck itself. So not alone do we have the River Suck, but we have all of these other tributaries that feed that, and we have all of the hinterlands, if you like. When you look at a river not alone do you look at the actual river, but you must look at the basin of that river and just see how it influences, if you like, the landscape and the locality, and how the locality then, I suppose, in turn influences the river.
In the county Roscommon, in hailstones and rain, I was crossing the fields on my way to the train. I met a Colleen and she wanted to know the shortest shortcut into old Ballymo. Oh, said I, Colleen, oh, who led you astray? I think I'll go with you and show you the way. Said she, I'm afraid because you I don't know. You might kiss me between here and out Ballymo. Oh, said I, Colleen, oh, I've seldom been kissed. Said she, my young man, what a lot you have missed. Said I, I'd be willing to learn, you know. We could practice between here and out Ballymo. Do you think I'd walk with you, my Booleen, oh? For I don't like your looks or the sound of your brogue. You're young and you're handsome, but God knows you're slow, and we don't like a dead one in our Ballymo. I've been noted for strength and for looks, and my brains are not bad, for I've mastered the books. So if you'd say yes to be married, we'll go and be happy forever in old Ballymo. Well, she started to laugh till I thought she would choke, and she said, my young man, here I'll tell you a joke. Step out of my way, sir, for now I must go. I've a husband and 6 kids in old Ballymo. In the county Roscommon, in hailstones and rain, if you're crossing the fields on your way to the train, beware of a Colleen that you don't know. She might well have been married in old Ballymo.
No, we don't like it, that one in our Ballymo.
I'm glad to be here today, and just a few little things I'm going to say. And first of all, I want to say to the elected representative, thank them for the commitment to this area. But particularly, I have to compliment Councillor Tony Waldron. Anthony is somebody you know him. He is somebody that gets things done as well. He's somebody that has contacted me on many occasions over the years, and he has one common denominator, and that common denominator is he loves his community, he loves his place, and he loves doing things for people to keep people living and working in rural Ireland. And Tony, I never got the opportunity publicly, but I want to thank you today to your commitment to your community, to commitment to politics, and particularly your commitment to rural life. And I'd like if you give him a big round of applause for all the work that Tony has done over the years. I had the pleasure, and I have to say, listening to both Dr. Neil Brady and Chris Southgate. They're committed and they really love this project. But I also want to thank the owners here, Piers, Connor Nash, for keeping this building, for keeping it in the community, because there's many castles like this all over the world, all over the country, that have been knocked down by developers. And I want to say to Piers, well done to you and your family, and thanking you for allowing what's happening here today, for thinking so much about your community. And I'd like if you give Piers a big round of applause for all the work that he has done for this community over the years. I've been given a very simple job here today, but before I do that, I just want to say that I was honoured to be in the Cabinet. I was honoured to be Minister for Sport. I reintroduced, I suppose, the Sports Capital Scheme, and there's many sporting organisations in Roscommon. There's one thing I'd say this, and I'd say it to the media, and I don't mind saying it to anybody. When I was Minister, the first 5 places I thought about, and I'd put number 1 first, the rest in Connacht after that. Mayo was number 1, and I looked after Roscommon, Sligo and Galway. I made sure that the Connacht counties were looked after. I got into a lot of trouble at times, media, but I didn't really care because we were only getting what we didn't get for the 50 years before that, and I was delighted to be Minister to be able to deliver to rural Ireland. And I have this message today, and I'm not going to talk politics. And, you know, when I look at people like Piers, and I look at Tony, and I look at the councillors, and I have to say, you know, that's both demonising rural Ireland. What's wrong with rural Ireland? When you look around here today, this is what's good about rural Ireland. Are we doing anything to damage the environment? No, we're not. We're the people that kept this environment. Rural people kept this environment for hundreds and hundreds of years. I'll do it again, and we don't need any lectures from anybody in Dublin 4, Dublin 5 or Dublin 6. Leave rural Ireland alone. What we want is more investment, more people want it, more people living in it, and people like yourself today that love this community, that love this area, the people like the Tidy Towns over the years that I had the honour of presenting prizes for keeping this beautiful village, for keeping this beautiful community. And I want to say to all the voluntary organisations, thank you for the work that you have done for your community and for your people. We have lots of hurlers on the ditch who are giving out about people that do good work. And I do say to these hurlers on the ditch, if you want to hurl and work with them, do not be giving out about these people that are trying to keep rural Ireland and keep our environment, keep our community, keep everybody living and working in rural Ireland. To the communities, thank you, and I'd like if you give the communities a big round of applause. Talked about the traditional skill course, and Dr. Neil spoke about the castle itself, and it's only my job today to launch what's actually happening here today. And what's happening here is good. It's great to see that castle being restored. I set up a scheme, the Rural Regeneration Scheme. And I'd say to the councillors today, get your county manager, put in an application into the Rural Regeneration Scheme for this project behind us, because this project deserves support. This will be good for the future of Roscommon. It will be good for the future of Ballintubber. It will bring thousands and thousands of visitors. It will keep people working and living in rural Ireland. Today, it's a beautiful day. I was glad to bring the day with me because, you know, we in Mayo, we have this kind of weather every single day. And today when I was coming up, I said, I'm going to bring the fine weather with us. But I'm delighted to be here today with this on behalf of Tony. And again, Tony, well done. Keep up the good work. And to the elected representatives, well done. Keep looking after your community. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Thank you.
Very, very welcome to Rathcroghan Visitor Centre in the village of Tulskere, just off the Suck Valley Way. And us here in Rathcroghan, we're a community group. We're founded in 1999 and we're the interpretive centre for the royal site of Rathcroghan, or to give it its original name in Irish, Cruachanee, which in times long ago, before you had any towns, roads, the main N5 just outside us here, very busy road, villages, cities in Ireland. Remember, we only get the first towns in Ireland in the 9th century at the coming of the Vikings. So in times before that, you've got a much more smaller, scattered farming population. And Cruachan or Rathcroghan here in Roscommon traditionally would have been used as a place of assembly. So when people needed to come together, and because they're a farming population, particularly times important to agriculture, so spring, summer, harvest and winter time like we are now, these mass assemblies, they were called éannaigí, still the Irish word for a fair today, and they're called the royal sites, this area here, because these éannaigí or assemblies were particularly associated with the crowning and the inauguration of kings. So if a king had to be crowned, it would be done here at a site, at a time of mass assembly, on a site here like Rathcroghan as well. And what that leaves us with on the ground today, spread out over 4 square miles. So this, as I say, are the royal sites. This is the largest, the oldest, this is the best, because we're in the west as well. Sure, everything in the west is the best. We've got 240 various archaeological sites, and they range in date all the way back to the Neolithic. So 6,000 years ago, when the first settled farmers come into the island of Ireland, you've people here in these very fertile plains in Roscommon farming, and it's never gone out of use ever since that time. So it's been in constant use throughout the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, the medieval period. We'd argue extremely strongly, still in use today. We're still here inside in Rathcroghan Visitor Centre, interpreting and interacting with the landscape here every single day as well. So as I say, 240 various sites, 60 of those are protected national monuments, and of those then 28 are burial mounds. of the Bronze and Iron Age styles. So Rathcroghan has another function as well as being a place of mass assembly, of royal inauguration. It's recorded by the medieval monks as one of the 3 great heathen cemeteries of Ireland, or a burial ground for kings. So out here around us in Rathcroghan, this is the traditional burial place for the kings of Connacht as well. So this is a very high status prehistoric cemetery. Now we have another layer to ourselves as well, because way back in the Iron Age, and the Iron Age for Ireland, 500 BC to 400 AD, a time before we have any writing or written history, so a mysterious prehistoric time. But way back in the Iron Age, Rathcroghan here is the site where Queen Maeve ruled Connacht from. And so the Táin Bó Cúailnge, the Cattle Raid of Cooley, our national epic tale, it's like our Iliad, our Odyssey rolled up into one. What's lovely for us here in Cruachan is it not only begins here, but it ends here as well. So there's a huge body of folklore and mythology associated with this landscape as well. We're even said to have an entrance into the Irish otherworld, a cave known today as Oinagat, the Cave of the Cats as well, a place where the festival of Samhain, which as we all know is the modern day, evolved into the modern day festival of Halloween, is said to originate. So we're a home, as I say, not only of Queen Maeve, of mass assembly, of royal inauguration, but I suppose we can claim to be the home of Halloween itself as well. So our visitor centre here was founded in 1999 as well, had a complete overhaul. Our museum rooms that you see around us here in 2014, and we have new resources always coming into the place as well. So we produce the literature, the information for Rathcroghan, we have guidebook, we have driving routes. We're very, very lucky. We're one of the very few community groups we have 35 artefacts out on loan, all local to Roscommon and Rathcroghan here to the local area, on loan out from the National Museum up in Dublin as well. So we're very, very fortunate to have that. All of these projects I'm mentioning, we get massive support from Roscommon Leader, from the local authority, and we're very, very fortunate as well that we've just received word that we're going to receive just over €440,000 from the National Trail Scheme. We're going to have a walking trail out of Rathcroghan, a number of routes. One of the, I suppose, challenges that we face here as well, because Rathcroghan is such a huge site, spread over 4 square miles. There's 60 different landowners, farmers in operation out here as well. A large majority of the monuments we have here are on private farmland. We wouldn't have general everyday access because they're working farms. As I say, people have been farming out here since history began as well. So as I say, they've got livestock as well. We can't have the public traipsing right to them as well. So if you like, it's one of the last pieces, again, of the puzzle that we're missing as well, that we, as I say, we provide guided tours in around here as well. We've got interpret the landscape through our museum as well. But this was going to allow the public, if you like, to explore a deeper level of Rathcroghan right into themselves. So as I say, it's something we're really, really excited about going forward as well. So as I say, if you're travelling along the Suck Valley Way, I don't think you have any excuse, as I say, not to take yourself down here to visit us as well. Come to our museum, take a guided tour, buy a guidebook, have a look right away around, have a nice cup of coffee in our cafe as well. So as I say, you'd be very, very welcome, and I think you'd be remiss not to try us out.
Okay, Goldsmiths Lament, right.